Kathy, and welcome back to Hand Me Down Recipes. Today we have Amy from Amy Casey Cooks with us today. How are you, Amy?
I am fantastic. Thanks, Kathy.
Good. I'm so glad to have you with us. And we are going to talk about your family's pound cake recipe. So give us a little story. Tell us about how you came by the recipe, like how it was passed down to you.
So the recipe is from my great aunt Rose. It's my dad's aunt.
Okay.
And so it was passed down from her. I got it from my mom, and it's written down in one of her cookbooks. And she passed away about 30 years ago. So now I've been going through her old recipes, trying to pick out my favorite ones to try again. And this one I've been making for years. She always made this recipe, and it was always on the counter on a cake stand when you came over, so this was one of our family favorites. And it's one I have to make every time my family comes to visit. It doesn't matter if it's just a weekend or if it's a holiday, it's a must.
There you go. Okay. And so it is very much a traditional pound cake. For people who don't know, it's a pound of sugar, a pound of eggs, a pound of butter, kind of thing, pound of flour, right? So, and your recipe uses Imperial margarine, and you're very specific that it needs to be Imperial margarine.
I did try it with butter, and it was not the same because, I'm like, everything's better with butter. Let's make it with butter. And I tried it with butter, and it didn't work out how I remembered it when my mom made it. So Imperial margarine it is.
There you go. That is great. And now you said it was in one of her cookbooks. So is this something that she hand wrote, or like something that
hand wrote in her Woman's Home Companion? On the front pages are different recipes, and this is one of them that she has written in. And the one thing besides the Imperial margarine, she wrote to put in 5, 6, or 8 eggs. And I never got to ask her what that meant. It's like, when do you put in 5? When do you put in 8? It doesn't have any grading of the eggs. It doesn't say, like a large egg, a jumbo egg, or anything. Right. So I usually put in 6.
Right. So that's interesting. I wonder if she measured, well, she didn't write down the measurements, but I have seen recipes like in old books where it will be like, you want a cup of eggs.
Right.
It's usually, you know what I mean? And so however many that takes to get there.
I'm lucky if she had all the ingredients and all the directions written down, because sometimes there'll be the ingredients and then the directions. I actually was looking at one of her recipes. She would make apple slices, which was basically like a big apple pie in a baking sheet. And it's one of my dad's favorite recipes. And she had something written, and it looked like 1 cup of spray. And I'm like, what the heck is spray? It was SPRY, which is spry. And one of my sisters knew that's another name for Crisco.
Oh, I didn't know that. Spry. Okay, so isn't that interesting? I know oleo, right? Like if you're familiar with old cookbooks at all, you will see oleo written multiple times. So that's great because and we have talked about this on other episodes of Hand Me Down Recipes. But our foremothers and grandmothers, our ancestors, they just knew how to cook. They didn't need very specific recipes, right? Like they were just like, oh, you just toss it together, and until it looks right, and then
right,
and then there you go. So yeah.
I think that's why her recipes are written like that. And also, I'm the youngest of 6 kids. So time was a premium when she was making dinner or baking or cooking. So I'm sure she didn't spend a lot of time jotting down recipes. She just had them in her head.
Right, exactly. They just had them, especially when you do things all the time. We were talking, when you do things all the time, you just kind of know. You might check, you double check. When I can applesauce every year. I have for 25 years. Longer, probably. Right. I still every year double check the time, even though in my head I'm like, I know what it is, but let's just double check the processing time. So when you have a recipe like that, that's really great. And so for people who haven't made a pound cake before, it's just pretty much a cake recipe. You're creaming the butter and the sugar and adding eggs.
It's very easy. Everything just goes in to the one bowl, and I use a stand mixer because that's the easiest, because it's a lot of batter. First you do the creaming of the Imperial and the butter, then in goes the sugar. But it's a very forgiving recipe. It's not like an angel food cake where you need to fold in egg whites, that kind of thing. It's hard to mess up.
Right. Okay. So one of the things because I always test the recipes, and I did make it, and your recipe was very specific that you needed to use a straight sided pan, not like, because I normally, when I would make a pound cake, generally speaking, I would probably use a bundt pan most of the time. But you were specific.
This is another story.
Okay.
So here is the pan.
Yeah.
well used.
Huh?
So this was my mom's pan.
Oh, yay.
So I didn't have this pan for years, and I would try to make this pound cake because I loved it so much, and it would look beautiful. The top would be nice and brown, and I could never get it out of the pan, and I always greased it. And so I was talking to my stepmom one day about it because she always makes this, and I said, "What's the deal?" And so she went in the cabinet and gave me the pan. So since then, everything has worked beautifully. You do need to grease the pan really well. And I just use the wrappers from the margarine to grease the pan. I found that's the easiest way to do it. One of my sisters may use a bundt pan, but
I normally do, but since your recipe was so specific, I was like, okay, well, we're just going to do it this way. And the only
I like how it
one
looks.
I have has the removable bottom, like for angel food cake. So,
right.
But I used it and it was great. It was perfect. It came right out of the pan, and I will say,
And I like how it looks when it's in the straight-sided pan. It's a little bit higher, looks great on a cake stand.
It does look great on the cake stand. And it does get really beautifully brown on the edges and nice and crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. Like the day I made it, my husband was sampling, of course, and he was he just loved the texture of it. Just loved the texture of it. So for folks who, if you're not familiar with like a traditional pound cake, it does have that wonderful kind of crispy exterior. It's not crispy really. It's just, I guess it is crispy. I'm trying to find the right word.
Crispy on the edges because the center is so dense. It's different than, like a birthday cake, which is more light. It's a very dense cake, and it's very moist and delicious, and it freezes great. I slice the cake into individual pieces and just put it into like a Ziploc bag, and you can just toss them into your freezer and then have it whenever.
And that's exactly what I did, because we're just a household of two, so an entire pound cake. And I thought about, well, I could probably half this, right? Like I thought, I could just have it and make it in a bread pan, because that's what I have done in the past with other pound cake recipes. But I was like, no, I want to do the whole thing, and it'll freeze, and it's fine. It is in the freezer, and it was great. And I did the same thing. I just sliced it, and we ate it for a day or two fresh, and then that was like, okay. And I also made it kind of around Christmas time, and like our level of sugar was just like, okay.
Oh, exactly.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's only my husband and I too. And so I'm always baking things and handing them out in the neighborhood because we can just eat so much.
Right. That's right. And especially sugar. Like there comes a point, even though I have a sweet tooth, there comes a point where you're just like, okay, I have to have a vegetable now.
Yeah. Exactly.
And how did your family serve this? And you were saying she had it around all the time.
Right.
So not just for birthdays, but.
No, not just for birthdays or holidays or anything. We live at the Jersey Shore, so we have a lot of summertime guests that want to come and go to the beach. It's always on the counter. It's like most people have it at breakfast time, but it's great for snacking any time of the day. I like just to serve it plain, but my dad always likes it with powdered sugar drizzle glaze, like frosting.
Oh, sure.
So up the sugar level just a little bit more.
There you go. That's funny. It is, because it is really, and the thing about pound cakes are that they are so dense. They do stay fresh for a really long time on the counter. And if you're not putting any extra frosting or anything on it, you really don't need to refrigerate it for any needs.
No, you don't. I mean, it will stay fresh on the counter for, 4, 5, 6 days.
Yeah.
Perfect. And it makes it, just good with a cup of coffee. I also like make it a little fancy. And serve slices, with some strawberries that maybe you drizzle a little Cointreau or something over the strawberries. And then it makes a little sauce and put it on top of the pound cake with a little homemade whipped cream. Makes it a little fancy.
Right. So it elevates it slightly, but it doesn't need it. But that's a great idea too. One of the things, when I made my very first pound cake forever ago, now 30 years ago, probably on my own, and there was a cookbook, and I feel like it's one of the Moose Wood cookbooks. So those are really, I'm dating myself. I feel like it was in that book where they were talking about the pound cake, and they said to toast the pound cake like you would toast, like put it in the toaster. And I have done that ever since. And I will say, for anyone who's curious, that is a really tasty way to enjoy a slice of pound cake, is to toast it, because of all the butter. It gets nice and delicious, and actually put a little jam on it, just like you would.
I may put more butter.
There you go. There is a lot of butter. You might not need that, but if you do, it's great. It won't hurt anything for sure. And so I did do that with this, and I did try one little slice that way, and it was really good. And I'm funny. I like anything with my eggs. Like muffins and whatever. I like
Right,
my eggs.
right.
And I was thinking, if I bet this would be good with an egg on top. If you wanted to try and make it a little
Oh,
savory,
for sure.
maybe. I'm not sure. I didn't try, but if anybody else does, let us know, I guess.
When I was growing up, my dad used to make it into a trifle. So it was cut up into cubes and
Yeah.
layered with, whipped cream and berries and made in one of those pretty trifle clear bowls so you could see the layers.
I don't have one, but yes. Yum. Because
Yeah,
normally trifle's kind of like angel food cake, I think. But right, so this would be really rich and so lovely with the
right.
whipped
And it
cream.
like the cake soaks up all those juices from the berries and delicious.
Yum. That sounds really good. And for somebody who might be making the recipe for the first time, what
Mhm.
kind of tips would you give them?
I would make sure you have all your ingredients measured out. This one is forgiving. A lot of people like to use a scale when
Yeah,
they're baking to measure. I don't usually.
I don't
It's
either.
no, it's very forgiving when you're just measuring out the flour and the sugar and the sour cream. And I like sour cream in it. My mom also had a little note on the recipe that she would substitute plain yogurt or
Oh,
even a
sure.
flavored yogurt for the sour cream. So that's a possibility. So it's very easy to mix up. The batter's very dense, so you like to spread it out into the pan and make sure it's even. And since all ovens vary when you're cooking,
Yeah.
I like to watch it at the end. And if the top I feel is getting too dark, I'll just lightly place a piece of foil on the top,
Right.
just so it doesn't get as dark. And then I let it sit for probably about 15 or 20 minutes after it comes out of the oven. And the cake kind of releases a little bit from the pan. And then I just run a knife around the edge, give it a few good taps on the bottom, and then it comes out.
Right. I didn't have any trouble with it sticking. I was a little anxious because even though I had buttered it, that aluminum pan that I
Yes,
have that's straight sides, things stick to it because ideally you're making in mine, it's designed to be an angel food cake, right? So you turn it
right.
upside down and they do tend to stick for a while. And I was really anxious about not that it would matter, right? If a
Every
cake
time,
falls
no, every
apart, it
time,
doesn't matter.
every
But of
time
course
you
I
make
wanted to take pictures. So I
right.
wanted it to, come out. And
Right.
but it came
Well, I
out
just
just
even just made a banana bread and
yeah.
I was anxious that it wasn't going to come out of the pan. Every single time I make something, I'm like, oh, I should have lined that with parchment.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, I know this a lot of like bloggers are always like, line it with parchment. And that's fine. But I'm always just like, you know what? Grandma wouldn't have lined things with parchment. She just wouldn't have.
And
And
I,
most things turned out just fine. So we're fine.
I also think that with the parchment, it's an extra layer so that it won't brown up as nicely.
Yeah, that
It's
probably
like a
could be true.
little, layer between the pan, the pan is what's going to get hot when you use a metal pan on a cake. That's
Right.
what gets hot first and gives you that beautiful golden color
Right.
that you're after.
Yeah, I just feel like, and I know when I look through older cookbooks, they very rarely will say, every once in a while, I will see a recipe where they'll say something like, put a thin piece of paper. They just say to use paper because they
Yeah,
wouldn't use parchment
I
paper.
don't think they had parchment paper. I only remember wax paper growing up.
Me too. And you wouldn't have baked with wax paper because then you get wax. But I mean, I still wrap my pie crust because my grandmother did, or like sugar dough, cookie dough that has to be refrigerated. She
Right.
always wrapped hers in wax paper. I still
Yeah.
do that. I wrap it
Right.
in wax
Those
paper.
are fun. Those are such fun traditions.
Yeah, why change it? It worked and it's cheap. Wax paper is so much cheaper than parchment paper. So, everybody you do you. I'm just saying sometimes
Right.
we have a tendency to make things fussy when they don't need to be.
And also, it's so hard to cut out that parchment paper to exactly fit. And it's always rolling up if you don't have the flat sheets. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I only use the parchment paper for cakes when I'm making a birthday cake and I desperately don't want it to stick, right? Like
Right.
I absolutely don't want it to stick. That's about the only time that
Right.
I use parchment paper. And I did notice now that someone, probably King Arthur, sells like the silicone mats
Right.
in cake sizes, cake pan sizes, so you could just drop those in and reuse them and
Right.
not have to use parchment paper.
But then you have to wash those.
I know. And then the other thing is then I have to like buy those and spend the money on them. And I could probably buy
Right.
a lot
Yeah.
of parchment paper for what they cost. So,
Right.
I
Right.
tend to just be like,
I
well,
tend not to. Then I have to store them. I have a small kitchen.
I know.
I don't like to buy extra things that I have to store.
Right. And I just tend to be like, yeah, I'm with you. I don't want to buy things I don't need. And I just feel like our grandmothers did plenty of stuff with very little.
Right.
We have a tendency to think we need all kinds of fancy things.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
we
No,
don't
you
need
don't.
fancy things.
You don't.
And the thing is, even if the cake sticks, so the cake sticks, maybe you don't put it on the fancy tray, you serve individual slices instead or whatever. It's not going to matter for the flavor.
No,
Like very
you fill the
rarely.
hole in with whipped cream.
That's right. Like my husband's always like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I know you eat with your eyes first, but at the same time, that kind of thing just doesn't matter.
Right.
It's still going to be delicious, so don't fuss over it. And I will say you had mentioned about the sour cream in this recipe. And I do think this is the first time I've made a pound cake with sour cream. And it does completely change the flavor profile in the most wonderful way. So for anyone who's made pound cakes that are maybe a little different that don't have the sour cream, this recipe is, it will change your mind about pound cake. It's so good, the sour cream. It just
Right. It adds, I think, more moisture to the cake and just that little bit of tang to it.
Yeah, that little bit of tang was really nice. Because don't anyone come at me. I definitely taste the batter. And like, I know, somebody's going to be like, you shouldn't. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm 51 years old. If I want to taste the batter,
I'm licking the spoon.
Yeah, me too. So I tasted it, after I had put it in the pan, and I was like, oh, this is just so good. It was so good. I couldn't wait for it to cook. And it does. Pound cakes do take a long time to cook. It's not something I'm going to cook on a really hot day.
No.
But I'm definitely going to cook on the winter.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I have made it and froze the whole cake. Wrapped it really well in plastic wrap and a really big Ziploc bag, and it freezes beautifully.
Oh, that's a really good tip.
If you want to do the whole cake in advance.
Right. So for anyone who's thinking about it, you can absolutely do that on a day. Because it isn't something you're likely going to want to bake like after you've worked an 8-hour day, right? And commuted and made dinner. But you could make it over the weekend and then serve it on a weeknight.
Oh, for sure.
Like
easily.
Yeah, for sure. And it will stay fresh, like she said, for a long, long time. That's really great. So other than sticking with the Imperial, is there anything else that people should absolutely not change about your recipe?
Well, it only has like a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda.
Yeah.
And that seems like
not enough. Yeah, I know.
Minuscule. And if I don't do that, it won't change it. If you don't use it, it won't rise how it's supposed to. So don't skip that. My stepmom had that issue one time. She's like, I just forgot that little bit of baking soda. Yeah. But it does make a difference.
Right. And it's interesting because when I was reading the recipe, I was like, baking soda, not baking powder.
Yeah.
And so that for people who bake a lot, it might seem like you should use baking powder, but you don't want to use it. You want to use baking soda. And it will be very different. I didn't try it, but I know it'll be, just because I know, it'll be very different if you use baking powder instead of baking soda because of how they react. So that's a good tip. Don't forget, just follow the ingredients. Now, have you tried it with different extracts, like instead of vanilla, maybe almond or something? Did you ever do it?
I have not, but I would love to try it with almond extract because I love the flavor of almond extract. I would probably add like a teaspoon of almond and a teaspoon of vanilla.
Right.
And I think that would be change the whole flavor profile. My family probably would think it was a different cake. And
they probably would, because it would be really different just because the almond flavor. See, I was thinking the almond flavor would be really good with some fresh cherries in the summer.
Oh, for sure. Right. So, you could probably do also lemon if you wanted to put some zested lemon peel in there. I'm not a big fan of lemon extract. I'd rather use,
I'm not either. It never tastes as good, I don't think.
It tastes odd. It tastes manufactured. So, you could put in a couple tablespoons of lemon juice, and the zest of a lemon. That would be refreshing and delicious.
Right. And do you ever add anything like raisins or chocolate chips or anything like that to the batter?
I've added chocolate chips. That's delicious. That's a fun one. Raisins, I haven't, but my mom might have, because that seemed like everything had raisins in it back when you were growing.
Yeah, sure. There's a certain generation where everything had raisins.
Everything had raisins. Everything was an oatmeal raisin cookie. It was...
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. When I was making it, the nice thing about not having anything added in, there's a really nice texture to it. And so once you stir something else into it, like chocolate chips, the texture is going to be different. So it would be, but chocolate, you can hardly ever go wrong with chocolate chips, right? So
you can make a little chocolate ganache and drizzle that over the top too. That would be delicious. Or with a scoop of ice cream and some hot fudge, there's just like...
You cannot go wrong is what we're saying.
You can't, you cannot go wrong.
And you should know that because it is so rich, one cake will serve a lot of people.
Oh, for sure. Easily, 15 plus people.
Right.
because you're not having a big, huge slice
Right,
because
right.
it is so dense as compared to other cakes.
Right. Yeah. It's not like a birthday cake where you're going to want like a big wedge. You're just
Right.
not. It's a slice,
It's a
and that's going to
slice.
be good. Yeah.
And in
Perfect.
my family, for some reason, after you have a slice and it's on the plate, everyone cuts it into 9 squares.
Is that true?
Yes. So when the piece is there, it's just you do one cut, one cut. So then there's just 9 squares, and everyone likes a different part. Some people like to eat the top, because that's a little more moist. Some people like the center piece the most, but everyone cuts it in 9 squares every time a slice.
Do you know how that got started? I'm just
I,
curious.
I have
You have
no
no idea.
idea, but everyone does it.
That's it. That's such a sweet little tradition. I love it. And I love when we do things like that. So thank you for sharing that. That's a really cute thing. Oh, wonderful.
Right. Everybody from, my siblings all the way down to nieces and nephews,
Yeah.
they all cut it.
That is really sweet.
And it's always interesting to see which piece they leave for last. Because I'm always like, eat the best one last.
Yeah, I'm the same way about anything. I always want the best piece of whatever I'm eating, whatever I think is the best piece.
Right.
Last. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I am the same way, whether it's the savory or sweet. I'm very much,
Right.
I always want the best piece last. That's funny. Great. Well, Amy, thank you so much. Tell everybody where they can find you online, please.
I am at amycaseycooks.com, and I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, I'm on TikTok, and on YouTube, all Amy Casey Cooks. So any place
Perfect.
you look, you can just put that in and you'll find me.
Great. And we'll link to that, of course, in the show notes. But a lot of people just listen and go find you without clicking the link. So that's just fine. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
It was great. Thank you so much for having me.